Carnage. Pure, unadulterated carnage just erupted across WWE programming, and if you're not absolutely furious right now, you haven't been paying attention. Bronson Reed, the 330-pound wrecking ball from Australia, just committed what might be the most devastating assault we've witnessed in recent WWE history, and his victim. None other than the meteoric powerhouse everyone crowned as the guaranteed Royal Rumble victor, Bron Breakker. That's right, folks. The man who was supposed to dominate the Rumble, the genetic freak who carried his legendary lineage on his shoulders, the unstoppable force that was positioned to steamroll through 29 other competitors, laid out. Decimated. Destroyed. And here's what's making the WWE Universe absolutely lose their minds right now: this wasn't some accidental collision. This wasn't a heated rivalry boiling over. This was calculated. This was personal. This was Bronson Reed sending a message written in violence and sealed with brutality. But before we dive into this absolute mayhem, before we dissect every bone-crushing moment of this catastrophic assault, I need you to do something critical right now. Smash that subscribe button like Bronson Reed just smashed Bron Breakker's championship aspirations. Hit that notification bell harder than those tsunamis Reed delivered, because Ring Rumble 1 is your destination for the most explosive wrestling analysis, the most controversial takes, and the unfiltered truth that other channels are too afraid to deliver. We're building an army of passionate wrestling fanatics who aren't afraid to speak their minds, and you need to be part of this movement. So subscribe now, enable all notifications, and let's get into this catastrophe. Let's rewind and paint this horrific picture with every excruciating detail. Bron Breakker, the second-generation superstar whose surname alone carries the weight of wrestling royalty, was riding an unprecedented wave of momentum. Week after week, this absolute specimen of athletic dominance was mowing through competition like a lawnmower through tissue paper. The chiseled physique, the explosive agility, the raw power that defies his already impressive stature, everything about Breakker screamed, future world champion. The WWE Universe had practically engraved his name on the Royal Rumble trophy. Betting odds, heavily in his favor. Wrestling pundits, unanimously predicting his triumph. Social media, flooded with fan-made graphics of Breakker pointing at the WrestleMania sign. The trajectory was clear, the destination was certain, and the coronation seemed inevitable. But then Bronson Reed happened. And when I say, happened, I mean he erupted into Breakker's world like a volcanic catastrophe that leaves nothing but destruction in its wake. Picture this nightmare scenario: Bron Breakker, fresh off another dominant performance, walking backstage with that signature confidence that comes from knowing you're untouchable. The cameras following his every step, capturing that champion swagger, that aura of invincibility that surrounded him like armor. Then, boom, out of nowhere, Bronson Reed emerged from the shadows like a predator who'd been stalking his prey for weeks. But this wasn't just an attack. Oh no, no, no. This was a statement written in violence, signed with malice, and delivered with extreme prejudice. The initial strike, devastating. Breakker never saw it coming. Reed's massive frame collided with the second-generation star with the force of a freight train derailing at maximum velocity. The sickening thud echoed through the corridor, a sound that will haunt WWE fans for months to come. But Reed wasn't finished. Not even close. What happened next can only be described as systematic destruction. This wasn't rage, it was calculated carnage. Reed proceeded to dismantle Breakker piece by piece, limb by limb, using every weapon in his arsenal and inventing new ones on the spot. Crashing against a shore, each one more punishing than the last. The first one, Breakker's body convulsed from the impact. The second, you could see the life draining from his eyes. The third, medical personnel were sprinting to the scene. The fourth, everyone watching was screaming at their screens, begging for someone, anyone, to stop this massacre. And through it all, Reed's face remained eerily calm. No emotion, no remorse, just cold, calculated devastation being delivered with surgical precision and heavyweight power. When the dust settled, and believe me, it took an eternity for that dust to settle, what remained was barely recognizable as the dominant force we'd seen minutes earlier. Bron Breakker, the invincible wrecking ball, lay motionless on the cold concrete floor, surrounded by frantic medical staff, panicked officials, and one satisfied Bronson Reed walking away from the crime scene like he'd just completed routine business. The damage report: catastrophic. Multiple injuries. extensive bruising, possible internal trauma, and most devastating of all, Breakker's Royal Rumble participation thrown into serious jeopardy. Let that sink in for a moment. The man who was guaranteed to win the Rumble might not even compete in it now. The favorite to headline WrestleMania might be watching from a hospital bed instead of throwing competitors over the top rope. This seismic event has spawned more questions than answers, and the WWE universe is divided like never before. First, why? What possible motivation could Reed have for this unprovoked assault? These two hadn't exchanged words, hadn't crossed paths in any meaningful rivalry, hadn't given any indication of brewing animosity. Was this jealousy over Breakker's meteoric rise? Was this Reed making a statement about being overlooked despite his own impressive credentials? Or is there something deeper, something more sinister lurking beneath the surface? Second, who's next? If Reed can systematically destroy someone of Breakker's caliber with such ease, who in the WWE locker room is safe? This attack just put every single superstar on notice that nobody is untouchable, nobody is protected, and nobody should feel secure. Third, consequences. What punishment awaits Reed for this heinous act? Will WWE management throw the book at him with suspensions, fines, and sanctions? Or will they recognize that this kind of ruthless aggression is exactly what creates legendary rivalries and monster box office numbers? Let's address the elephant in the room. The Royal Rumble is now completely unpredictable. The entire landscape just shifted violently beneath our feet. If Breakker can't compete, and that's looking increasingly likely given the severity of this assault, who fills that massive void? Who becomes the new favorite? Does Reed insert himself into that conversation after making such a devastating statement? And here's the twisted irony that's making this situation even more infuriating. Reed might have just created his own path to WrestleMania by destroying someone else's. By eliminating the favorite, he's potentially opened a lane for himself that didn't exist 24 hours ago. But here's what's really grinding my gears, what's truly making this situation explosive. Where was security? Where were the officials? Filtered reality that nobody wants to acknowledge. Bronson Reed just changed his entire career trajectory with one savage assault. Whether you love him or hate him for it, whether you think he's a monster or a genius, whether you believe this was justified or despicable, it doesn't matter. What matters is that Reed is now the most talked about name in professional wrestling. Every social media platform is exploding with his name. Every wrestling website has his picture plastered across their homepage. Every podcast is dedicating hours to analyzing his actions. And Bron Breakker. His Royal Rumble dreams aren't just damaged, they're potentially obliterated. His WrestleMania aspirations aren't just postponed, they might be cancelled. His momentum isn't just halted, it's been violently reversed. This catastrophic assault represents everything intense about professional wrestling. The unpredictability, the violence, the way careers can change in seconds, the manner in which one man's devastation becomes another man's opportunity. Bronson Reed just reminded the entire WWE universe that nobody is safe, nothing is guaranteed, and everyone is vulnerable to destruction. He took the favorite, the chosen one, the guaranteed winner, and reduced him to a broken heap on the floor. Now the question becomes, what happens next? Can Breakker recover in time? Will Reed face consequences or rewards for his actions? How does this reshape the Royal Rumble entirely? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Are you furious at Reed for this assault? Do you think Breakker can recover? Who's your new Rumble favorite? Debate in the comments, and remember, if you haven't subscribed yet, you're missing out on the most intense wrestling content on YouTube. Ring Rumble 1 is where the conversation happens. This is far from over.